You are listening to a free version of the Majority Report with Sam Seder. To support this show and get another 15 minutes of daily program, go to majority.fm, please.
The Majority Report with Sam Seder.
It is Monday, May 11th, 2020. My name is Sam Seder. This is the 5-time award-winning Majority Report. We are broadcasting live, steps and steps and steps from the industrially ravaged Gowanus Canal in the heartland of America, downtown Brooklyn, USA. On the program today, director of the William Rhodes Center for International Economics and Finance, the William and author of the upcoming book, Angrynomics, Mark Blyth, will be joining us on the post-pandemic economy and maybe the during-pandemic economy. Meanwhile, look who's coming to dinner. White House races to contain COVID-19 in the White House. Also on the program today, the bailout is working for the rich as we head to 20% unemployment in this country. Meanwhile, Dems gear up to pass a new stimulus bill, but Republicans will be taking a little bit of a pause. White House officials will be testifying to the Senate, but they'll be doing so remotely, at least some of them, because some of them think they should be quarantining. California will now be doing vote by mail. Iran offers an unconditional prisoner swap. The Georgia AG wants a federal investigation of Ahmaud Arbery, and Hearst loses its bid to halt unionization. Meanwhile, ex-DOJ says Barr lied about her findings to exonerate Flynn. All this and more on today's program, ladies and gentlemen. We will get to all that and more in just a moment. Brendan, are you there? Want to put that music down?
Yep.
All right. Got a couple of things to go, and then we will be talking to Mark Blyth about what we have happening on the economy. We got a lot of stuff to do quickly. Let's just start with this. The big story, of course, and I know, there's a lot of people who, I'm sure there are varied reactions to this. I mean, Mike Pence told us he didn't have to wear a mask when he went to the Mayo Clinic, because, of course, he's constantly tested, and everyone around him is tested. And, they would never, the White House, they would never jeopardize the president or the vice president. And, of course, it turns out that his spokeswoman, last name Miller, oddly enough, has tested positive. She is Stephen Miller's wife. And now Stephen Miller apparently has not tested positive. He tested negative. It's unclear if he is, he's not going back into work, but just about everybody else is. Now, the doctors, Redfield and Fauci and Stephen Hahn, who's the FDA, they've decided to hang back from the White House from there, presumably because they don't want to send the wrong message to other medical personnel. But as far as the White House is concerned, they're trying to push this idea that there's no problem. We can open up the the infection, the disease is going to go away. And as long as we save the economy, we'll all be fine. And apparently a lot of people in the White House are freaking out now. I don't want to lie and say that this did not bring a smile to my face, but it did when I read this graph. This is from the New York Times. Mr. Trump continues to reject guidance from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention to wear a mask when meeting with groups of people. But a senior administration official said the president was spooked that his valet, who was among those who serve him food, that is just a disgusting thought, had not been wearing a mask. And he was annoyed to learn that Ms. Miller tested positive, has been growing irritated with people who get too close to him, the official said. Here's Donald Trump sharing the news that the White House staff is now infected. Volume.
You're muted.
I don't know much about it. Questions? John?
Can you bring us up to speed about the member of the vice president's staff who is now tested positive for coronavirus? This is now the second staffer in the West Wing.
Yeah. Well, I don't know much about it. Does anybody want to talk about it? She's a wonderful young woman. Katie, she tested very good for a long period of time, and then all of a sudden today she tested positive. She hasn't come into contact with me. She spent some time with the vice president. It's, I believe, the press person, right? You'd say press person. So she tested positive out of the blue. This is why the whole concept of tests aren't necessarily great. The tests are perfect, but something can happen between a test where it's good and then something happens and all of a sudden she was tested very recently and tested negative. And then today, I guess, for some reason, she tested positive. So Mike knows about it, and Mike has done what he has to do. I think he is on an airplane going to some faraway place, but you'll be able to ask him later on. But they've taken all of the necessary precautions. I understand Mike has been tested, Vice President, and he tested negative.
Yeah, but what good are tests, right?
This whole idea, this guy's such an effing idiot, it's unbelievable. Or he's just so freaked that he doesn't even have the ability to be in any way comprehensible. Or I should say, coherent. You know what's weird, too, about this? I mean, look, obviously, the low-hanging fruit here is that the moron doesn't seem to understand that's why you test every day, because people can catch it afterwards. And I also love the fact that she clearly has not been adhering to any guidelines, that she and Stephen Miller have been doing whatever they want. And I love that. I think that's wonderful. I think Mike Pence might be on the verge of getting me to believe in some fashion of God if he keeps this up. But I love the fact that he also speaks of her. She's a great person, even though she had a bad test. Like this, it's like almost the same way they talk about people who are living in poverty. Like there's some type of moral repudiation that is going on because they have tested for COVID-19. It's fascinating. And of course, Mike is on a plane going somewhere far away. What?
What good are negative tests if they don't tell you if you're ever going to get it or not?
If you can't, I don't know. I thought this was supposed to see into your future. It was a future test. Folks, this ad is a warning. Our democracy is under attack from the U.S. Supreme Court. In the middle of a deadly global pandemic, people across Wisconsin were planning on voting absentee to keep themselves and their families safe. But the night before the election, 5 Republican justices on the Supreme Court told thousands of people they'd have to choose between risking their lives and forfeiting their right to vote. Supreme Court favoring Republican interests over our democracy is nothing new. They gutted the Voting Rights Act. They invited billionaires and corporations to spend unlimited amounts trying to influence elections. They gave a green light to gerrymandering, voter ID laws, voter roll purges, and now a progressive movement is rising up to fight back, because it's quite possible the Wisconsin case will not be the last 2020 showdown over voting rights to be settled in the courts. We simply cannot trust this court to put aside partisan views and protect people's right to vote. Our courts are becoming too political. It's time to say enough. Learn more about how you can join the fight by visiting demandjustice.org/majority. That's demandjustice.org/majority. And folks, as you know, I am not the most adept shopper of clothes. I don't know what goes together. I don't particularly like to shop for clothes, but I have found a far more convenient and comfortable way for me to do so. Talking about Stitch Fix. It's a personal styling company, makes you get the clothes you love effortless. Bingo. It's a completely different way to shop. It's all about you every time. To get started, go to stitchfix.com/majority to set up your profile, and they'll deliver you great looks personalized just for you in your colors, styles, and budget. I think I'm an autumn. I don't know. I don't even know what that means. You pay a $20 styling fee for each fix, which is credited towards anything you keep. You can schedule at any time. There's no subscription required. Plus, shipping, returns, and exchanges are easy and free. Stitch Fix does the hard work for you, making great styles effortless for everybody, including men, women, and kids. I'm going on there. I'm going to buy my summer clothes through Stitch Fix. I got that Pilsen Thermal Crew. It's the only thing that I've been traveling with, being out of town. I love that thing, but it's starting supposedly to get warm. It actually snowed the other day, and I've got my eyes on the sneaker. It says they have limited stock, so I'm a little bit hesitant to say anything about it before I actually buy it. But it's a brown, sort of leathery, a brownish leathery kind. It's a grown-up sneaker. Brendan, I will let you know about this. Brendan's my other Stitch Fix stylist. He has to okay everything that the first stylist okays. But it's good. And if you don't like the stylist you get a different one. If you don't like what they picked out for you, you reject it. It's awesome. You can get started today at stitchfix.com/majority. You get 25% off when you keep everything in your fix. That's stitchfix.com/majority for 25% off when you keep everything in your fix. stitchfix.com/majority. We will put links to both these things in the YouTube and our podcast description. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, Mark Blyth, William R. Rhodes, 57, professor of international economics, professor of political science and international and public affairs, author of the upcoming book, Angrynomics. We'll be right back after this. We are back. Sam Seder on the Majority Report on the phone. It is a pleasure to welcome back to the program the director of the William R. Rhodes Center for International Economics and Finance and the William Rhodes Professor of International Economics and Professor of Political Science, International and Public Affairs at Brown, author of the upcoming book, Angrynomics. Mark Blyth, welcome back to the program.
Great to be back. That's a hell of a mouthful on those titles. I need to get shorter titles.
Well, I mean, it's pretty impressive stuff. I was actually just in the middle of reading that. I was thinking, I got to get something like this. But I guess you need to be a little bit more, a little smarter and a little bit more suited to academic work. But all right, with that said, I want us to start here because I think the first time you and I spoke was probably back in like 2013. Maybe it was a little bit before then,
Yeah.
but we were